Hello and welcome. If you're listening to this, chances are the world outside has finally quieted down. The day's demands have faded, and maybe, just maybe, your own thoughts are still buzzing a little too loudly. Here on Sleepless Reddit Stories, we invite you to lean into those quiet hours, to let your mind settle on a narrative that might just help you drift off, or at the very least, give you something intriguing to ponder as the night stretches on. We're not here for jump scares or loud noises. Our goal is to provide a gentle hum of intrigue, a compelling mystery that you can listen to with your eyes closed, allowing your imagination to paint the pictures. We believe that some of the most captivating stories are best told when the screen is dark and the world is still. And with that, I'm incredibly excited to tell you that this is our very first episode, the beginning of a journey into the hidden, the strange, and the deeply personal experiences that people have shared, sometimes under the veil of anonymity, sometimes submitted directly to us. We'll be exploring everything from long-kept secrets and double lives, to near-death experiences, and yes, even stranger encounters. I truly hope you'll follow along as we embark on this new adventure together. Settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin our very first tale. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening. The Gaps in My Childhood. This story isn't one I tell often. It's too personal, too raw, too unbelievable. But lying awake at night, the memories, or lack thereof, haunt me. I guess I'm sharing it now because maybe, just maybe, someone out there has felt the same unsettling gaps in their own life. My childhood was a blur, not in the nostalgic sense, but in a fractured, disorienting way. From as early as I can remember, there were time lapses. I'd be playing in my room, building with blocks, and the next thing I knew, I'd be in the living room, the TV playing a different show, hours having simply vanished. My blocks would be neatly put away. I'd feel a dull ache in my head, a lingering fog. My parents would just say I'd been resting, or lost in thought. It wasn't just in the house. I remember waking up in the car, miles from where I'd last consciously been, or finding myself in my bed, dressed for school, with no recollection of breakfast or even walking upstairs. The feeling of unaccounted time became a constant companion, a silent alarm bell ringing in the back of my mind. My home life was chaotic. My parents, they were always agitated, their moods swinging wildly. There was a constant undercurrent of abuse, both verbal and sometimes physical. I often felt sick, lethargic, or dizzy. When I complained, they'd tell me I was imagining things, or give me a syrupy liquid that tasted vaguely metallic, insisting it was vitamins. Looking back, I now understand that they were drugging me. Regularly. It kept me compliant, kept me quiet, and certainly helped explain the memory blanks. For years, this was my normal. A hazy, unpredictable existence where moments vanished like smoke. The breaking point came when I was 12. I woke up on the kitchen floor, cold and stiff, with a searing pain in my arm. My mother was shouting about a broken dish, but I had no memory of being in the kitchen, let alone breaking anything. In that moment of stark confusion and pain, something clicked. The fog lifted, if only for an instant, and I knew, with chilling certainty, that this wasn't right. This wasn't normal. I started planning. Every spare moment was spent hoarding change, studying maps, meticulously packing a small bag with essentials. The fear was immense, but the quiet desperation for control over my own mind was stronger. One rainy Tuesday, while they were distracted, I simply walked out the front door and didn't look back. I found a bus station, bought a ticket to the farthest place I could afford, and ran. The return of the missing hours. Life on my own, while challenging, was a revelation. The constant anxiety began to subside. The headaches lessened. The mental fog slowly cleared. For a few years, I experienced the blissful normalcy of uninterrupted time. I got a job, found a cheap apartment, and built a semblance of a life. I thought the nightmare was over. Then it started again. Subtle at first. A lost hour here, a forgotten conversation there. A sudden jolt awake on my couch, TV on, and no memory of how I got there. The familiar dread coiled in my stomach. Was I going crazy? Was it some delayed trauma response? One night, I woke up in my bed, the sheets oddly rumpled. A strange, antiseptic smell hung in the air. On my nightstand, a small, triangular metal object lay glinting in the moonlight. It was smooth, cool to the touch, with intricate, non-Euclidean patterns etched into its surface. It wasn't mine. I had no idea where it came from. My mind screamed alien abduction. The thought was terrifying, but it explained the inexplicable. The feeling of being watched, the missing time, the strange object, it all pointed to something beyond human comprehension. I started researching. Everything. Online forums, academic papers, anecdotal accounts. I learned about recovered memory therapy and various techniques for unlocking suppressed or compartmentalized memories. It was a long, painful process fraught with doubt and fear, but I was desperate for answers. I tried journaling, automatic writing, even hypnosis with a therapist who specialized in trauma. The unveiling. The first memory to surface was fragmented, a flash of bright, clinical light. Then a chilling sensation of floating. And voices not spoken, but communicated directly into my mind, a quiet, resonant hum. Over months, the pieces slowly, agonizingly came together. The vitamins my parents gave me? They weren't from a doctor. They were given to them. By them. My parents, terrified and unwilling participants, were being coerced. They were forced to administer something that made me docile, easy to transport. I remembered the times I was taken from my bed. Not pulled, but gently lifted, floating through the ceiling. The feeling of cool, dry air. The craft was beyond anything I could describe with human terms. It wasn't metal as we know it. It seemed alive, made of shifting light and impossibly smooth, pearlescent surfaces. The interior was vast, silent, illuminated by an ambient glow that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. There were no visible seams, no obvious controls, just shimmering panels and strange, fluid shapes. And they were there. Not terrifying monsters, but tall, slender beings with elongated limbs and large, dark, empathetic eyes. Their movements were graceful, almost balletic. Their communication was telepathic, a stream of images and concepts directly into my mind. They weren't hostile. They were learners. My role, my bizarre, unbelievable role, was to be a chaperone. To teach them the most basic human tasks. Not complex mathematics or philosophy, but the fundamental, intuitive actions of a child. How to hold a spoon. How to tie a shoelace. How to recognize emotions on a human face. They were incredibly intelligent, but lacked the innate understanding of our physical world, our social constructs, our raw, messy existence. They watched me, absorbed my movements, my reactions, with an intense, childlike curiosity. I remembered showing one of them how to stack wooden blocks, just like I did in my childhood room. The very same blocks that would be put away when I woke up in a different room. They mimicked my actions with precision, their long fingers carefully manipulating the shapes. I taught them how to draw, how to distinguish between different textures, how to respond to a smile or a frown. It was an endless, surreal classroom, on board a craft that could traverse galaxies. I was their human guide to the mundane, their window into the simplicity of our existence. And each time, after these lessons, they would return me. Cleaned, sometimes with a faint smell of that antiseptic tang, and with a carefully administered compound that erased the recent memories, replacing them with the illusion of time passing normally. They needed me unspoiled, my mind clear for the next lesson. The triangular object on my nightstand was a small, benevolent error. A forgotten tool, perhaps, or a test left behind. It was what finally allowed me to pierce the veil of my forgotten childhood. Now I live with these memories. The abuse from my parents, twisted by the realization that they were victims too. And the profound, terrifying, yet strangely humbling knowledge that I spent years of my life as a teacher to beings from beyond the stars.